This video is on solving equations with variables on both sides of the equation. It's pretty similar to what you've already done. The only difference is now that you have variables on both sides. One of the easiest things to follow is if you put all of your letters or variables on one side and all of your numbers or constants on the other, that's essentially how you're going to solve this equation. So the way that I remember that is letters on the left, numbers on the right. So if we look at example A, we'll notice that on the left-hand side there's a subtract 5. We don't want that to be there. And so to get rid of subtracting 5, we need to add 5 to both sides. Likewise, on the right-hand side, we'll notice that we have a negative 2p. And again, you don't want your letters on the right, you want your letters on the left. So to be able to get rid of that or cancel that out, we need to add 2p to the right-hand side. And if you add 2p to the right, you need to remember to add 2p to the left. So the way that I'm going to show my work is on the left-hand side of the equation, I'm going to write 8p plus 2p. Because remember, my subtract 5 has been canceled out because I've added 5. And on the right-hand side, I'm going to write 25 plus 5. Because my negative 2p, I canceled that out by adding 2p to both sides. So this is perhaps a slightly different way of showing your work. And I'll show you another way if you would prefer. This is probably the least amount of writing and eventually where you want to be able to go in terms of showing your work. So now all you have to do is simplify. 8p plus 2p is 10p, and 25 plus 5 is 30. And then to simplify, remember you divide both sides by whatever's with the variable, and your final answer will be p equals 3. So before I go on to the formal check, I'm going to show you a different way that you could have done your work. Again, this first way, that's how we eventually want you to be able to be showing your work. But I will give you another one that you may prefer. Oops, that's supposed to say negative 2p. So the other way, on the left-hand side, we want to get rid of the subtract 5 by adding 5 to both sides. And that will then simplify to 8p equals negative 2p plus 30. And then we want to get rid of the subtract 2p. And to get rid of subtracting 2p, we add 2p. If I add 2p to that side, I need to add 2p to this side. And that will simplify to 10p equals 30. And then I do exactly what I did on the other side. So when you compare these, they're exactly the same thing. I'm just showing the work. I'm basically doing the two steps, the red and the green step. I'm doing it at once. And so that's really all that I'm doing. So now let's do a formal check. So remember, when you do a formal check, you're going to substitute your answer and split it into left side and right side. So I'll start by doing left side and right side. On the left-hand side of the equation, you'll have an 8p minus 5, and on the right-hand side, you have a negative 2p plus 25. Remember, you always write your left and right based on the original equation. Your next step is to substitute. So everywhere you see a p, you're going to put in a 3. And then you follow BEDMAS, and you get an answer on the left side. You're going to do the exact same thing on the right side. And you get 19. Again, remember, it doesn't matter what answer you get. What you're trying to get is for the left side and the right side to equal the same thing. In this case, they do, and that means that your answer is correct. So then you need to just do a conclusion, and your conclusion will be left side equals right side, therefore p equals 3. And that would be the end of your formal check. Let's look at one more example with solving equations with variables on both sides. This one is slightly different than the one that you're going to find in your notes. So again, if we go through this process, we want the adding 5, we don't want that on the left, and we don't want the subtract 4x on the right. So remember, to get rid of them, we do the opposite operation. So again, if I try to do that all in one step, my left-hand side, I'm going to end up with 3x plus 4x. And why plus? Because to get rid of the negative 4x or subtract 4x, you need to add 4x to both sides. And on the right-hand side, I'll have negative 16 minus 5. And why minus 5? Again, to get rid of the adding 5, you need to subtract 5 from both sides. And remember that when I add 4x to this side, it cancels. And when I subtract 5 to this side, it cancels. So this is what it will be simplified to. And then I'm just going to simplify again, and I'll get 7x on the left, and I'll get negative 21 on the right. And I'm going to divide both sides by 7. And I'll get x equals negative 3. That didn't work out so well, so let me just fix that. So I'll get x equals negative 3. The other thing that I do want to mention is sometimes when you're solving equations, they won't work out perfectly. So for example, let's just make one up. 2x minus 5 equals 10. And so to solve this equation, you're going to add 5 to both sides. And you'll get 2x equals 15. Now, in this particular one, 2 doesn't go into 15 equally. What I don't want you to do is leave your answer as a decimal. So when this happens to you, I want you to leave your answer as a simplified fraction. So in this case, when you divide both sides by 2, you're going to realize that 2 does not go into 15 equally. So your final answer will simply be x equals 15 over 2. You're going to leave it as a fraction in simplest form. It is okay to leave it as an improper fraction. So just keep that in mind, because sometimes not all equations work out to a whole number answer. Doesn't mean you've done something wrong if it doesn't work out. You're just going to have to leave your answer as a simplified fraction. Do not write it as a decimal.